Step outside now. You're under arrest. Three men in dark uniforms stood on the porch, their fake badges flashing under the porch light. Their tone was smug, their stance arrogant. From behind curtains, neighbors whispered, recording on shaky phones. To them, it looked like another HOA victory, another man humiliated, but the target of their staged arrest didn't flinch. He raised his hand slowly, his face unreadable. They thought he was a victim. They thought he was just another black man they could bully out of the neighborhood. What they didn't know was that David Cole wasn't just any man. He was the most feared FBI agent in the country. And their trap? They had just walked into the neighborhood of Lakewood Pines, prided itself on control. The HOA ran the streets like a monarchy, fined for the wrong mailbox, threats for grass a half-inch too long, constant compliance checks. People whispered but rarely fought back. Fear was easier than resistance. But then David Cole moved in to the HOA. He was a problem from day one. A black man, quiet, private, who never showed up at community barbecues or monthly meetings. He paid his dues, but he refused to bend. When they fined him for parking on the street, he ignored them. When they demanded he remove his security cameras, he laughed. When they called him uncooperative, he sent back a single line, "Stay off my property." They didn't know who he was, and that ignorance would be their undoing. It started one Thursday night. The street was calm. Porch lights flickered. Somewhere, a dog barked. David sat in his study, sipping coffee, reviewing files on his laptop. To anyone watching, he looked like a man burning the midnight oil. In reality, he was reviewing classified reports on cartel movements. Because David wasn't just a homeowner, he was an FBI agent with 20 years in the field, a man who had stared down some of the most violent criminals alive. When the SUVs rolled in, David noticed before anyone else. He always noticed. 3 black trucks, no plates, stopped outside his home. Doors opened in unison, boots hit gravel, and 3 men stepped out. They wore uniforms, dark tactical vests, shiny badges clipped to their belts, radios strapped across their shoulders. To a neighbor peeking out a window, it looked official. To David, it screamed fake. Their patches were wrong. Their formation sloppy. Their guns? Plastic props from a distance. He smiled to himself. They approached his porch like predators circling. Prey. One pounded the door. "David Cole, step outside. You're under arrest for repeated HOA violations and non-compliance." The words echoed with arrogance. David stood, adjusted his shirt cuffs, and opened the door. He didn't rush. He didn't panic. He stepped into the night air calm, collected, eyes scanning everything. Neighbors gasped. Phones tilted to record. Some whispered, "Finally." They're taking him down. The leader waved forged papers. "We've had enough of your behavior. You're coming with us." David glanced at the warrant. Sloppy formatting. Misspelled words. Not even notarized. He almost laughed. He raised his hand slowly, letting them think they'd won. One moved forward with cuffs. Smirking. "Thought you could ignore us forever? Welcome to reality." David's eyes sharpened. His voice cut through the night. "Before you lay a hand on me, you should know who I am." The men froze. "I'm Special Agent David Cole, Organized Crime Division, FBI." His tone was low, lethal. "And right now, you're impersonating federal officers. That's 20 years in prison. Minimum." The crowd went silent. The leader sneered nervously. "You're bluffing." David reached inside his jacket. The imposters tensed, but instead of a weapon, he pulled out a badge. Heavy, authentic, gleaming under the porch light. Gasps erupted from the neighbors. "He's FBI. All this time?" The imposters faltered, fear cracking their masks. One stammered, We didn't know." David's eyes narrowed. "That's what they all say." And then it happened. Engines roared at the end of the street. Headlights flared. Black tactical vans tore around the corner, screeching to a stop. Doors slammed, and real federal agents in full gear poured out, rifles raised. Command shouted. The night exploded with controlled chaos. The imposters went pale. Their fake radios crackled uselessly. Their bravado dissolved. Neighbors ducked behind fences, recording through cracks. The HOA's enforcers, the men who had bullied, threatened, and terrorized residents, now stood paralyzed in front of the very man they had tried to take down. David didn't move. He didn't flinch. He simply nodded once. Like wolves descending, the agents swarmed the imposters, disarmed them, slammed them against their own SUV. The leader screamed, "We were just following orders." David stepped closer, his voice ice. "Then you should have thought twice about who gave them." The men were dragged into the vans. Wrists bound, faces pale. The neighborhood was buzzing now. Curtains pulled back, doors cracked open. Residents whispered, stunned. For years, the HOA had ruled with fear. But tonight, the spell was broken. One neighbor whispered, "He was watching this whole time." Waiting. Another said, "He's not just some guy. He's a protector." David looked around at the crowd. His gaze wasn't smug. It wasn't proud. It was steady, the look of a man who had seen worse, fought darker battles, and knew that silence was sometimes the sharpest weapon. He turned back toward his porch. Before stepping inside, he left the imposters with one final line, a line that would echo across Lakewood Pines for years. Real authority doesn't come from uniforms or badges. It comes from truth. And tonight, the truth caught you. That night, David Cole reminded everyone, arrogance mistakes silence for weakness. But silence is often the calm before justice strikes. The HOA thought they were untouchable. They thought intimidation and lies made them powerful. But they forgot that true power doesn't scream, doesn't bully. It waits. And when it strikes, it leaves no doubt. What do you think? Should David have revealed himself earlier, or was letting them walk into his trap the perfect justice? Comment below and subscribe for more cinematic stories of hidden strength, justice, and heroes hiding in plain sight.